So I've watched the movie Onward, or more like Backward. This movie, I'm gonna rate it a 4 out of 10. This movie is really bland. It is meh, it's blah. It's really not the movie I was expecting. Just based on the trailer alone, I would say this movie was going to be epic. I mean, it looks colorful, it has everything to do with magic, elves. What more do you want? But this movie, it is just bland. So let's get into it today. The story setup is basically we have Ian Lightfoot, who is voiced by Tom Holland, aka Spider Man, and he is an elf. He's turning 16, and we have his brother Barley Lightfoot, who is voiced by Chris Pratt, aka Star Lord. And Ian is basically an awkward, shy kind of person. And then we have Barley, who is loud and obnoxious, and he's obsessed with fantasy role playing games. Now, when I saw this trailer and when I read about it, I thought, well, awesome. I like fantasy role playing. I like Magic the Gathering. I like Pokemon. I like watching fantasy movies. I like animation. This movie is going to be perfect for me. But oh my god, this was a big disappointment. So on Ian's birthday, the brothers receive a gift that their father left them. Their father passed away and he left them a gift. Basically, a wizard's staff with a spell to bring him back to life for one day. And well, obviously, this spell goes wrong. And what happens is they manage to summon half of their dad, literally just his legs. So far, so good. That is interesting. That could turn out to be a great movie. Now, the brothers are going to embark on a quest to find a crystal to complete the spell so they get the whole body, they get the whole dad. That's basically what the movie is set up to do. And like I said, I'm expecting a lot of magic, I'm expecting a lot of jokes, I'm expecting emotional stuff, and well, basically because it is a parent who died and you can bring him back for a day, man, that should bring me to tears. I mean, that should make me cry. But no, not really. Now, the animation is predictably gorgeous. This movie looks great. And, it's a Pixar movie, and visually, Pixar never really disappoints. The landscapes look gorgeous, the magical effects look colorful, it's crisp, it's what you want it to be. The premise itself, a quest to see your lost father just one last time, like I said, that has some serious potential for emotional impact. And for me, that's basically where it stops in terms of what is good. Now, there's a lot of bad stuff for this movie. And the first thing is it has a very weak emotional core. Now, Pixar is famous for making adults cry, myself included. And I was ready to cry for this movie. That's what I wanted. I want some emotional punch. But, it never hits that emotional high. The father son storyline, it feels rushed, it feels shallow, it lacks conviction, it lacks execution, it lacks depth. It doesn't hit that emotional snare. And therefore, it's very weak in the emotional department. Let's put it that way. There is no crying involved watching this movie. And when you're watching this movie as an adult, what happens is you get a lot of references and a lot of themes that are pitched towards adults but also towards kids, and the humor and the action, it doesn't really engage with children, it doesn't really engage truly with the adults. So I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking, well, is this a kids movie? Is this a movie for adults? It's basically neither. Therefore, it basically feels for children, it feels for the adults. It's very unbalanced. I don't really know who this movie is for. I don't feel like it's for me, but I also don't think it's really for children because it is set up to be something very emotional. If you maybe lost a parent, then that is something you can relate to. The characters are completely forgettable. It's not something like, Frozen, where we have Elsa, or any other Pixar movie, basically. But this movie, we have Ian, who is just painfully bland. He's only awkward. He has no growth, no depth. He's a boring character. He's not fun to watch on screen. And then we have Barley, his brother. Don't get me started on him. I mean, he should be the comic relief, but this dude is annoying as hell. It's not endearing at all. It's annoying. It's not fun. And then we have some side characters, all basically just throwaway characters like pixies and cops and townsfolk and whatever. It's just filler. It's forgettable. And usually when you're watching a movie, there's always one or two interesting side characters. This movie has none whatsoever. So yeah, doesn't work. The storyline is quite predictable. They're going on a quest, and the structure plays out basically like a checklist of fantasy cliches. You can see every twist coming around the corner, and also including, the final part, the reveal of Ian's father, and basically the predictable arc that Barley and Ian, basically go on, from start to finish. The finale, it feels forced. The resolution really under delivers on the setup. I mean, I was watching this trailer and I'm looking at it and I'm like, yes, this movie is going to be awesome. This is what I want to see. And then it just really, really under delivers. And yeah, that pisses me off. The humor, when you're watching a movie, especially these types of movie, you're expecting, light, fluffy, a lot of jokes. But this movie, it lacks heart, it lacks depth, and it lacks genuine laughs. The comedy rarely lands. The comedy always feels very flat. The jokes don't work. And, when you're watching the trailer, you're promised a lot more energy, a lot more wit than this film actually delivers. So they really drop the ball when it comes to jokes. And then something that is often a problem with a lot of movies, which is pacing. The middle of this movie really drags, and it really stretches, especially the road trip filler type of stuff. And the quest in general, it just feels more like they're stalling than they're actually progressing towards an ending, towards an emotional payoff. So those are the things that I really didn't enjoy about this movie. So the only thing that I did like was it looks good, and that's where it stops. Now, Onward isn't a terrible film, but it is far from Pixar's best movie. It has a cast full of bland characters, a predictable quest. Emotionally, it's very weak, and that's where I thought this movie was going to shine. It really under delivers. And, maybe kids will enjoy it, because of the colorful fantasy. But for us adults, you're probably left wondering why Pixar's magic feels so bland, so watered down. So for me, like I said, my final verdict would be like a 4, maybe a 5 out of 10. Don't really want to be too harsh, but it's not a good movie. So I hope you enjoyed this review, and let me know what you think of this movie, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.